It is a lot of competition out there. The entry bar is very less. Fundamentals have to be stronger. The real essence of why they want to get into the field is missing. Whatever I have learned, I've learned on the job.
First and foremost thing that starts is understanding yourself. There's a self-exploration process. Before we arrive at a purpose of what we want to do, who am I, is what we need to understand. People generally tend to go to those jobs which pay them more, and then they realize after a few paychecks come to them, they realize they're not enjoying that.
How does the world know that you have become a brand in yourself?
In today's era, personal brand or brand is not what you want to communicate. If you are unable to tell that story in that first interview, again, someone else will do that and you are left behind.
What are the key elements in building that kind of a brand where you are sought after?
Fresh graduate or anyone coming out of the institute has an option of going through social media or etc. to communicate your brand and what they stand for. Good old days, there was only a CV, and that too was dictated by the institute in terms of this is the format, stick to this. You may be great in technology, but unless you communicate yourself, it cannot be that I'm hardworking, I will learn, I'm a good learner. Those are a given. You don't need to say that. But what is it that differentiates you from others?
How does Vishwakarma in Essential prepare its students to, kind of develop a personal brand?
Traditionally, colleges only taught courses and ensured that assessments were there and gave them a CGPA and sent them out. In the recent past, we have realized that just teaching, and which is there anyway, but only doing that is not going to be enough. But the point is, a student in those 4 years in a college or university needs to do things that will eventually become a brand, which will add to it. The content has to be there.
I would say oversaturated like data science right now. When I say oversaturated, not in terms of talent, in terms of influx of people. In terms of the noise in the industry, everybody today wants to be a data scientist. Nobody even understands what is a data scientist. The parents don't know anything about data science. Data science gives good money, so you become a data scientist.
So there is a lack of talent density at the leadership level itself, and that kind of percolates through the system. So I would say a student should spend 70 to 80% of your learning time in understanding what problems your area will help you solve.
Talking about the problems in the industries and the business impact that they've created would probably differentiate their profiles much better in data science than telling that I know Power BI, Tableau, ClickView.
And imagine someone who has been doing a car vlogging and suddenly talking of restaurants. That doesn't work. And it's quality over quantitative sometimes, but what you communicate should be authentic. Pray and pray strategy doesn't work. Sooner or later, world will start seeing video LinkedIn kind of profiles. Fresher in the industry doesn't mean your avenues are limited.
The job profiles were not matching. Their requirements were different to what you were looking at. They probably have only a few skill sets that they were looking for, and you probably were not fitting into that. But that doesn't mean that you don't fit into the entire ecosystems. Have you studied the JD enough for you to tell that compelling story so that he or she is sitting back and hearing you out in terms of your accomplishments in this 1 year of your internship?
At any given time, there are people reaching out to me and, be like, hey, that's the ideal state for any candidate, right? I have people offering me jobs and I am deciding what I want to do.
If you start with the aim of ensuring that my first application should be my last one.
Branding, I believe, primarily comes when the person has identified his area. Their primary concern is, at least for a large majority, is the CTC.
You are good at something, so that skill set of yours is applicable in many companies.
It's not important to know where you want to go. It's important you should know what you don't want to be. When you come out of the institute, you realize the real world needs a lot more different.
For women who want to be in tech, what are the ways in which they should put themselves out so that they are identified?
Parents who think and see a potential in their children should start nudging them towards it. It does start from school. It does start from home. Women make a huge difference. Guy who is very bullish about something, he wants to make it big, that's considered huge, that's considered something to go after. Whereas a woman who's very bullish about certain things, it's considered in a very different light. If you see a guy sitting at home and taking care of home and taking care of kids, the first thing you ask is why. And if you see a woman who is kind of traveling, doing all of these things, growing up in the career, is how much more time are you going to do this?
My take is absolutely opposite of that.
When you voice out as a woman, you saying that statement doesn't seem to be right as a victim, right? You're playing a victim card. People get referred as, hey, you are a diversity head. There are people who have told me, hey, you are a diversity head. Come on.
Yeah.
That's an insult to me. Diversity quota should get awareness.
This diversity is a new form of reservation that drove Indians out of India, is the reason why bulk of the brain drain happened, and now this diversity hiring, I see it as a new form of reservation.
Having a guideline on a diversity is fine, but using that to say A over B, no, that is something I wouldn't recommend.
The male has to be equally groomed while he is growing to ensure that he is getting married to in the future to a person who's going to be working.
In fact, a lot of companies today, or at least in my teams that I have seen, you forget the fact that there is a female.
Parents and everyone knows it's a AC, air-conditioned environment where my daughter is working versus going on the street, managing projects, etc. There's a conscious choice made at the college level itself.
And in mechanical engineering, the number of girl students come is always less.
Less.
More
Had
at
the
family and
mother-in-law or
society.
the mother ensured that I will take care of the children, daughter-in-law please go, or the daughter please go pursue your career, this problem would not have been so much.
What differentiates a newcomer to the industry versus experience is the experience itself.
Hey, hi. Welcome all of you to another episode of Titans Talk. Today we wanted to, kind of address, we've been talking about what are the steps that, a young aspiring professional or an aspiring student should be taking over the course of this season. Today we wanted to touch upon the fact that it's not just skills, tools, and mindset. It's also about the brand you build for yourself and how that affects your career opportunities and your career progression. So, for talking about that, we've had a set of panelists, and today we have with us a set of panelists from various walks of life, from sales, from data, from marketing, and from academics. So they will all chip in and kind of educate you about what are the steps that you need to build your personal brand and how that affects your career opportunities going forward. So I will go ahead and have all of them introduce themselves and then go from there. So Ashutosh, start with you. You can introduce yourself.
So, hi, my name is Ashutosh Kapoor. I come with IT industry and entrepreneurial background, and I've been around for about 30 years. With Of late, my leadership roles have been with Microsoft, Salesforce, and UiPath. And I, I've been, I have not slotted myself into either a sales or a marketing or an alliance guys. I have been around doing leadership roles across sales, marketing, which is quite relevant for this topic, and more importantly, being an entrepreneur in social media space. But I am just happy to be of some value to people who want to understand how one can groom up with your social and personal branding. So that's it. But I'm an engineer by training, and then I went to Bajaj Institute for MMS, and then went off to University of Georgia in the US doing my MBA there. And then over the last 30 years, I've worked with multinationals like Cisco, IBM, and Sun Microsystems, and kind of allows me to look at various cultures, various organization cultures, which are very different from each other. But it also gives you the adaptability as a person. So that's long and short of it.
Got it. So, Matangi, if you can briefly introduce yourself and what you do and what is your current mandate at UB, and then probably a little bit of your journey as well.
Sure. I'm Matangi. I am the Chief Data Officer at UB. I have around 20 years of experience, all in data science and AI and analytics. I started in this field into analytics, building risk scorecards. From there, as the field evolved into more of computer science, and when natural language processing became mainstream adoption in organizations, I got into that field as well. I have around 100 patent grants in the area of customer experience. Have written 2 books, one on natural language processing for a practitioner. This is again pre-generative AI era. And the other book is on how do you leverage data science for business applications, which people who are not native to data science will be able to benefit from. This gives an intuitive thought process on how machine learning works and how that can be applied to various business problems out there. I believe in creating impacts through AI, and that's what excites me. I think AI can make the world a much better place, and it is constantly progressing. We are living at a point where there are a lot of possibilities and a lot of things that can happen through data, AI, and machine learning. Coming to question on my current mandate, I take care of data across UB and the group companies. UB is a debt lending infrastructure where a lot of large scale as well as large scale retail transactions also flow through the platform. We are also a marketplace where people who need money gets connected to people who can give money. We have a collections arm where the money gets funneled back to the source. We are also into retail and enterprise risk. As the taking care of data there, I take up various AI products and solutions to banks and NBFCs across the globe. We started out with India and we also have presence in MENA, and then we are taking it to various countries from there. What is exciting is financial industry impacts our lives in more way than what you can think of, and powering that through AI will truly build financial inclusion, right? And that's something that will be game changing for the economies and for the people across the world, right? So how do you make better decisions so that the right funds reach the right set of people, is what has been what we have been working on at UB.
Got it. Thanks. Praveen?
Thank you. So I'm Praveen Sirianavar. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Brandcom. I'm a physics graduate, developed some fondness in the field of journalism while I was preparing for my competitive exams. Did my post graduation in mass communication and journalism, and then started my career as a journalist with the Indian Express, and then moved on to Deccan Herald. I also enjoyed writing car reviews for a portal called carazoo.com in the initial part of my career. That was my content writing stint. Before I thought I should get into corporate communications, I felt I should have a short stint understanding public relations, digital marketing, brand consulting, and advertising. That's when I joined Brandcom and I was asked about what kind of commitment they could expect from me. And I said 2 years, but thereafter it has been over 15 years. I'm in the same organization. My founder, Ramanujam Sridhar, asked this question to me. And he created this environment where there was adequate freedom, challenge given. And I started growing ranks. I joined as a manager, and today I'm managing the entire operations of Brandcom. And we at Brandcom serve over 70 clients across all segments, over 7 markets. And Brandcom has been around for 25 years. And we are part of Madison World today. And my current mandate is predominantly growth, looking at process development and building a highly productive team. So what we do is we build this team, take care of them, and they take care of our clients. And that's what is a quick introduction about me and my current mandate.
Thanks. So, Karthik?
Yeah, hello, I'm Karthik. I'm the Central Training and Placement Officer at Vishwakarma Group. We are an education group based out of Pune. We're there since 1983. I'm working with Vishwakarma since about 25 years now. Previously, I was the professor and head of department in computer science. But since the last 7 years, I've taken this role of Central Training and Placement Office, where my role is to find internships and jobs for almost 4,000 engineering graduates that come out of our college each year. So we have been in touch with several hundred companies, not only in Pune but Bangalore and across India. And increasingly, we have a lot of students interning in Germany, Japan, South Korea, Singapore as well. So we are trying to reach out, to a larger space to find out internships opportunities for our students. Also, I connect with industry to find out opportunities like hackathons these days, because that's a major way in which many tech companies are hiring students. And many companies also run electives in colleges for students, which are, and especially after the pandemic, a lot of these are even being done online, etc. So there are several initiatives to connect with the industry. So the whole goal is to, quote unquote, reduce the gap, because industry has always felt that students that come out of colleges are not industry ready. Though sometimes as professors we joke with our industry friends that, hey, even you guys came out of the same colleges, but you didn't come from the moon or something. But somehow that's a complaint that has always been there, and rightly so. So to reduce the gap, we have these initiatives. Especially, we have an internship program where students can intern for an entire year in final year. And many of my students are actually in Bangalore, interning with various tech companies across all domains. So that's where I come from.
Got it. Thanks. Thanks. So, thanks all of you for joining us in. So, right. So, I wanted to, go one by one. I wanted to start off with you, Matangi. So, I wanted to ask you, how has a personal brand around yourself helped you in your career? And what advice would you give to students who are starting out or young professionals who have started afresh in the corporate world?
Sure. So I'll start with the second part of the question on how do young professionals start out. See, today, especially in data science and AI, the field that I come from, it is so democratized, right? So there are libraries out there, tools out there. It's with language models, things have become even more easier, right? All you have to do is some level of prompting and things start working. So it is a lot of the competition out there. The entry bar is very less, and there is a lot of aspiration because this field is also comes with a lot of hype and lot of glamour around it. So many people want to come in. So it becomes extremely important when you reach out to companies or when you're seeking to build your career or even for internships, right? It is important that how you stand out among all the clutter becomes very important, and rightfully so. There are many forums as well, starting from LinkedIn to GitHub to different hackathons that you could be part of. Kaggle Grandmasters are things that everybody speaks about. Plus, there are other opportunities to create a brand for yourself in terms of interning with few organizations, building your profile. Rather than using the word brand, I would use at this stage the word profile. You could create your profile, you could stand out, you could tell those people whom you are reaching out for opportunities on why you are different from the rest and what is the kind of innovation you have done, what is the kind of difference you have made to the world around you using science and technology, right? So that's very very important. It's not even great to have thing, it's a must have today if you have to differentiate yourself and come over the competition that's around you. That becomes extremely important. So and there are as much as the bar is low for you to enter into the field, there is also bar low to expose yourself, right? So it's very easy to start a YouTube channel, share your views, or write blogs about it, write a Medium post article about what you think, etc., or get into a hackathon and kind of come into it. Networking is extremely easier. That is also a way to build your profile. And hence, doing it consciously will make a difference to the profile that you have and to what you can offer, and to come through the clutter and shine out and create a positioning for yourself.
So, for the young student getting into the corporate world, what would be your 2 cents in terms of this?
Sure. So, see, finally, fundamentals have to be stronger, right? It is not just about speaking about certain things or writing about something. You have to be fundamentally stronger. And you will be fundamentally stronger only when you like and you are really passionate about what you're doing and you have a skill to do what you're doing. So, the skill of what you're doing is important. The interest in what you're doing is extremely important. And then you go deeper into the aspects of how do you build the skill as well as the knowledge about the field, right? So just talking about data science, for instance, you need to understand the algorithms, you need to understand how they work and not make it like um, a, a chai conversation, right? It is very important that you understand what you're doing, develop the skill, constantly work towards it. Now this becomes very important. Now, in order to showcase this, in order to kind of make a difference about what you are doing, you try and contribute in various forums that is out there, and then take it forward from there, right? So that's what is going to stand out. Being true to yourself, which is your skill and your interest, being true to what you want to do, right, and reaching out to things that you can problem solve. Those are very, very important. Then working towards uh, showcasing your profile, or working towards how do you cut through the clutter, becomes the natural extension of it. But the first two are very foundational and fundamental, because when a lot of people ask me to want to get into the field, or ask my advice, etc., the real essence of why they want to get into the field is missing, right? It is more because there is a lot of hype around this. There is more because many people are talking about it, more because it seems cool, rather than the actual difference that you can make here. I'll just take a small anecdote from my experience. I started into this field with a small incident. So GE Consumer Finance had come to our campus, and they were saying what was analytics about. It was pretty new, at least in India. The field was very new. Not many companies were doing it. And when they had positioned analytics in the campus, and they had to explain what analytics is, and one of the things that they said still stayed with me, and that's the reason that I actually got into the field. They gave an example of if GE was to set up windmills, the analytics will help us figure out which locations, the windmills to go. And that example stayed with me. And for me, this field is about making a difference to the business, and that's the reason why I got into the field. I'm not a trained statistician or computer scientist. Whatever I have learned, I've learned on the job. And the reason to learn the job was there was a bigger purpose here. So it's extremely important for students to work on their purpose, work on the skills needed for the purpose, and hence bring it together in the form of different exposures to reach there.
Got it, got it. So I wanted to understand this part, okay, from what you're telling me, right? So you've written a couple of books. How has writing these two books helped you as a better person, as a better person to be identified or reckoned with within the industry? And how has this helped you, further your personal brand positioning?
Sure. So I believe in. I just said I'm not a trained computer scientist or a statistician through academics. Whatever I've got trained on the job. So my way of learning things is by doing. My way of learning things is not just by reading, right? And hence, one of the things that they say for learning is you get better at it while teaching. So my journey in NLP, very hands-on learning in NLP, came through two sources. While I was handling natural language processing problems, and I had a team of computer scientists reporting to me. When I started out, I did go up to my manager and say that, hey, I don't think I should be leading this field because I don't come from this background. But he said, you will bring a different perspective, and you should be able to take it from here. And that's how my journey in this started. A lot of my learning came from the team that I was working with, and while solving real world problems. The next big learning for me happened when, in one of the institutes, they reached out to me for teaching a course on natural language processing. So then I thought this possibly may be my best opportunity to learn it, because if I have to teach it, I'll have to now go from fundamentals, learn it, and then teach it. And that's how it strengthened. Then around the time, APRES from Springer approached me to write a book. And I thought, now that I was teaching natural language processing, let me write a book on it. And that is the reason why I signed up for the book. And even while I signed up, I definitely know I don't know much. And I had to do a lot of groundwork to write those chapters, and all of those chapters have a lot of quotes and very hands-on in them. So it again proved a way, no, because once I committed, you have to deliver. Then despite all the things, demands of your job, you will be true to that learning. So I per se saw this opportunity of writing a book, more so that I can strengthen myself, strengthen my fundamentals, and hence contribute back. And that kind of added a lot of branding and things like that. But my motivation was absolutely, to learn and to contribute. That's how the first book happened. For the second book, which was on capitalizing data science for real world applications, for that there was another publisher, BPB, who approached me around the time. There were a lot of VCs, there were a lot of startup founders who used to have a normal general chat with me on saying, how do we leverage data science? Is all people saying true? How do you invest in a team? What kind of applications we can solve? What is the right investment to make? Is my investment justified or not, etc. So then this when the publisher had also approached me, I thought this could be a good way to kind of get it back to the community on how do you use data science, especially from the lens of people who are causing impacts by it, people who are driving it but not necessarily know how data science is, right? So that was the purpose for the second book. I'm again going back to what I started in the beginning. Your branding or your exposure, your visibility in social media is just is just a canvas. The bigger thing that will drive you into that is your purpose. So finding that purpose and finding and being true to what you want to do and what you want to say is the essence of it. Just working on exposure without an element or without the base of it is not going to make a difference, and that's something that I have also learned. So whatever I have done, or the lectures I do in colleges, or the forums that I am part of, my bigger purpose there is to contribute and to share what I can, and also hear from people like in this podcast, what they would also have to say. It is more driven by that rather than the glitz and the glamour around it, if I can say so.
Got it. Thanks. So Praveen, coming to you, right? So, how does a personal brand influence your job opportunities? Given that you've been there in one organization for the last 15 years, not a first-hand experience, probably you would have helped people get there, or you would have seen people get there. So, if you can touch upon it, okay, how does a personal brand help you get better opportunities or bigger opportunities?
So let me answer this in two parts. One for the person who's seeking for a job for the first time, uh, and two, the working professional. There are two categories of people. And then if you look at personal branding here, when it comes to the first time job seeker, what majority of the people, this is coming from the experience of working with an assessment and recruitment companies who are our clients, and also universities who are our clients, where the big debate is always about employability. Whose responsibility is employability? Is it the person who's getting recruited? Is it the recruiters, or is it the university or the institution that actually imparts this knowledge? So after a lot of deliberation, what we concluded when we were writing a lot of these campaigns was it's predominantly the job of the recruitee, the person
The
who's
candidates.
looking for the job. It's his job, and the process doesn't start when in the last 50 days of the recruitment process. It actually starts from day one of him or her stepping into the university or the college. And while working with assessment companies, while we closely monitored the product development that happened to improve the employability of these students. So the first and foremost thing that starts is understanding yourself. There's a self exploration process before we arrive at a purpose of what we want to do. Who am I is what we need to understand. The first process starts in self discovery, where you need to understand who are you. Can you coin one sentence which explains who you are? Can you ask your friends? Can you ask your colleagues, peers? Can you ask your spouse or your partner as to what they think about you? There's a difference between what I think about myself, which is my current perception, what is the actual perception in the market. Then there's something called desired perception, which I need to work on. So the desired perception has to be a little in connection with the kind of job I want out in the market. 4 years in my engineering or 3 years in my graduation, have I figured out where I want to go and what is that I would enjoy? So that starts in your self discovery process. If the student has not done that, they tend to make majority of these mistakes in their internships and post internship and in their first job. And that's why you see a lot of attrition happening in the first job. It's 1 year or less than a year, they say, I thought I was here to explore, now I've figured out where else my heart lies, what do I love, etc. These are very expensive mistakes which people do, and it costs them as well as the organization that recruits them. So first and foremost, have people started going and studying the job descriptions? Am I studying basis the job description which I think is where my love, my dream is? Because people generally tend to go to those jobs which pay them more, and then they realize after a few paychecks come to them, they realize they're not enjoying that, and that's when they're not giving their 100%, and the purpose and them and the job are not connected. In such a scenario, what happens is the attrition, and then the fondness towards the job is not there, and the satisfaction of the employer or the manager isn't there. So hence the entire process should start ideally in the first 3 years or first 4 years, or from day one of the journey. Look towards the job descriptions and start working towards those, because and then spend a lot of time talking to your seniors who have got into that job. Before burning your fingers, study the entire ecosystem and study it for the next 5 6 years, so that there is enough clarity, and then your preparation is so much better, than you are far superior compared to your other competitors. That's what Matangi was talking about, saying how do I stand out from the rest. So my preparation started 3 years ago or 4 years ago is the first indicator that you are so serious about your entire journey, and that's your personal brand building journey starts from there. And then what have I done? How deep have I gone into understanding the requirements? What skills are essential? How many internships should I do for that? What kind of projects should I take up? So that you are not just that eligible candidate, but you are that most eligible, the most deserving candidate your recruiter should look at. And that's when the job becomes easy. Your first job is a pleasure, and then the whole journey of what you loved and what you're doing starts from there. That's the personal brand building journey, and then there is not much to look behind after that.
So, follow up is that you enjoy, you are building you are becoming a brand in yourself. How does the world know that you have become a brand in yourself? How do you put it out to the world and say, okay, this is who I am, and if you're seeking for this, I am the person, I am your go-to person. How do you ensure that that is positioned? And after positioning like that, what do you think happens for their professional thing?
Very good question. Today in today's era, personal brand or brand is not what you want to communicate. It's about what the market or the customer or the consumer, in this case it's a recruiter, what he perceives of you is your current reality. That's your personal brand. So while you know who you are, does my recruiter know who am I? So that would, the first point of communication there is built in your CV, your profile that you start building. So the CV should talk about the seriousness, the effort, the period in which you prepared, how well you prepared, what were the skills that you picked up, what were the various projects that you picked up, has to be chronically documented in your CV from your first year. And then you keep revising the CV every year as you upgrade yourself in your graduation journey. And the recruiter is definitely going to take stock of this once they go through this profile, because that's a first communication tool, that's your CV. And now once you land up into that first phase of your interview, you have to be a good storyteller to start the conversation of your seriousness, your understanding of the role, your understanding of where your future lies, and what efforts have I put in this entire 4 years or 3 years journey, and how I am the most deserving candidate. If you are unable to tell that story in that first interview, again someone else will do that and you are left behind.
Got it. So I want to, kind of shift from there to Ashutosh. Ashutosh, I wanted to understand, right? So let's assume, based on what Matangi and Praveen told, somebody decides today that I find my calling and passion, and then I start moving my career towards that, and then that becomes a brand, and I also ensure that that kind of reflects in who I am and what I do and all of that. But after that, let's say he has to At the end of the day, he has to advertise to the world that, hey, here I am, this is what I do, and you need to come to me if you want this. Or that should be on top of the recruiter's mind. So the whole resume and profile, all of that is after they find you. Before they find you is what
Correct.
the branding part comes. What are the key elements in building that kind of a brand where you are sought after?
So I agree with all of them. The fact is that today, at least, any fresh graduate or anyone coming out of the institute has a option of going through social media or etc. to communicate your brand and what they stand for. Good old days, there was only a CV, and that too was dictated by the institute in terms of this is the format, stick to this. There's very little one can do. So when one goes out to recruit, there is very little you can judge. Almost everyone sounds the same. So I think one of the most important things that one any new entrant into the industry has to learn is or do is to make sure your communication skills are well taken care of, because you may be great in technology, but unless you communicate yourself, and I'm talking of interpersonal communication skills, which means how do you tell what you are, and apart from that, the brand itself evolves because uh, e- again, as she said, brand is a big word, especially if you're a new entrant or a student who is just getting into professional world. But like marketing students would know, there are multiple 4 P's of marketing, etc. There is not very different for an engineer who's wanting to position himself in the industry. For him, it is all kinds of WH questions that one needs to be clear with. Let's say that what of it? What are you? As a fresh trainee with 4,000 other people in the market, what is it that you bring to the table? What are your, I mean, it cannot be that I'm hardworking, I will learn, I'm a good learner. Those are a given. You don't need to say that. But what is it that differentiates you from others? And need not be just differentiation, but at something that you do good. Maybe others also doing it good, but you need to know it, that you can do it. And the other WH is how. How do you position yourself? You should be clear about the positioning. Um, there is a very famous book from Elries and Jack Trout called Positioning the Battle of Your Mind. It's all in the mind. So, if you are able to position that I am the data science engineer or I am the mechanical person that you would want, and typically it's easy if you choose a niche and do that positioning instead of trying to do everything. Be very specific about the terms of project or whatever you have done, so that people remember you for that. You know, everyone remembers who went to Mount Everest first, but nobody remembers who went the next. They also remember who went the third, because that was a woman. It was the first woman. So, bottom line is you need to be positioned as someone who is doing something different and the first person doing it. Uh, the other attribute is about what. So you said what, you said how, and then there is also the why. Why should they come to you? And you have already positioned yourself. Now it's about what value add can you do to them. People want to hear stories about you, not because they like you or anything else, but it's because what is that in it for them. So it's always their version of the world that you're looking at. And all in all, you also talking about making sure that you today you have such a good communication strategy. So chart out that communication strategy. People touched upon having blogs, writing the basic. Nobody has stopped you from using these mediums. Um, there is Facebook, which is taken as something which is very casual, not necessarily for your professional thing, but LinkedIn is a very good source. And today you have these vlogs and small podcasts which can give you those exposures and brand you. So, and even in that podcast, again, going one step further, you should be very choosy about what is the kind of narrative you're putting out. What is the right down to the color combinations? How do you want yourself to be taken? What, because perception is subconscious effort. A lot of people make an effort to see what you are. Some people just assume this is what you are. So how you want to be positioned, whether you want to be colorful guy. I mean, you next time when you look at a podcast or a blog, just look through those. What are they doing? I mean, there are some famous ones, like let's say London Top, very famous. Okay, they are pink and aqua, absolutely different color shade. But then the moment you see something coming in pink and aqua, you know these guys will be up in. So there are truck vloggers, there are food bloggers. There is, I mean, today the world is seeing so many video bloggers of everything, but you need to position yourself. If you're a data scientist, what is your skill? Or positioning yourself as an engineer, data scientist, in that what? You can't be, let's say, if you're a pet lover vlogger, you can't be a pet lover dog and within that a pug. No, then you are niching yourself too strong, and you kind of very little audience, target audience. And the last thing I would like to say is, you just know what is your target audience, which means which companies are the ones that would need your skills. And once you go after those companies, you should be very clear about uh, what messaging, how you get there, and who are the people you need to impress. So I would say the avenues today are far more than it was ever available, and I'm sure it will grow.
Got it. Got it. So thanks, Ashton. So on the flip side, right? So they all talked about young professional, or once they get into the market and they start working. So Karthik, how does Vishwakarma and Essential prepare its students to kind of develop a personal brand, or a kind of a profile in themselves before even they graduate, so that they, when they come to the industry, it is not like it's a root shock or something.
Yeah. So to build a brand, first a person needs to have some content, right? I mean, so what happens is, universities and colleges, we get 17-year-old, 18-year-old kids who are just out of school, literally 12th standard. So traditionally, colleges only taught courses and ensured that assessments were there and gave them a CGPA and sent them out. In the recent past, we have realized that just teaching, and which is there anyway, but only doing that is not going to be enough, because also we realize that most of the stuff that we teach, a lot of it is there online as well. So what is it that we are specially adding to their brand? So this is a question that has we have been thinking about since the last 10 years, and we came up with some initiatives. I would like to say one thing is, we have made it mandatory from first year engineering. Every student should have at least one publication in a year. So, okay, we understand that they may not have done so much work immediately to publish. So in first year it may not be, but what we have also done is, in every year there is a course specially which is called as a project course, where the student has to do a project which can involve all the courses that they are studying, right? And maybe something more also, which they haven't even studied in that semester. And we also have a course called research methodologies, which is generally, previously it used to be taught in MTech or PhD programs, but we started that from first year engineering itself, to tell them about how to publish. So like some of them, Matingi was talking about, she's written books, and Ashutosh was saying about communication skills. So one type of communication which students need to do is written communication, how to write properly. Baltic is of course to write mails and other things, but even when you have to write a paper, and because this is a course which has credits, this project and a publication which is mandatory for a student every year, we mandate that they should have it published minimum in what is called as a Scopus indexed conference or journal. That's some kind of a standard. So over the period of 3-4 years, every student ends up at least with 3 publications in a Scopus indexed journal, conference, etc. Which, and then you have to go there and present also. So it's not only written, but then it's oral as well, and you have to answer questions when you are asked, etc. So this has been a very core part of our initiative since the last 5-6 years, and it's working pretty well, I would say, because initially students were like, hey, this is like only a master's or a PhD student would write a paper. Why are you asking undergraduate kids to write papers and go to conferences? But we said, no, you look at it positively, it's going to benefit you. So students have taken it positively. So that is one thing in brand building exercise. And also we emphasize a lot on participation on hackathons. We kind of very actively encourage. We host hackathons in colleges. There are companies which are ready to host as well, and we co-host them. Our students go. So if any student wishes to go for a hackathon and be it anywhere in India, we are the first to sponsor and ensure that the student goes. So, and good number of students have been participating, and so these are all ways in which they build the brand. Besides, of course, GitHub and LinkedIn, and ensuring that all that gets reflected. But the point is, a student in those 4 years in a college or a university needs to do things that will eventually become a brand, which will add to it. The content has to be there. Otherwise, it cannot be that without a content just to show something, right? So we are trying to emphasize on that. And also another thing we did was sign up with several foreign universities for a semester exchange program. So one semester student goes abroad, maybe Germany, Canada, Singapore, South Korea. These are 4 places where there are certain universities with which we tied up for that. So students go there, spend a semester and come back. So many such initiatives we believe help in improving the brand of the student. So when they come out, and besides the internship as well, which is as I said earlier, a year-long internship in final year. And another thing we did is because when we started the year-long internship, there were questions about, okay, then what about courses in college? So what we did, we signed up with Coursera and gave a professional license, Coursera license, to every student in college in third year and final year, and said that every student has to do minimum 2 professional certifications. It can be Salesforce, and there also we didn't say that you need to do only this or this. We gave them a bucket of 30-40, said that you choose what you want, because it's personal brand building. You may be interested in something very specific, and so that only becomes their course in final year. So our students who are interning in Bangalore entire year, they have to do some coursework also, right? So the coursework is the Coursera courses, which they sit here only as they are interning on the weekend. They will do those courses, and the marks they get in that certification, they will submit that to the college. That will get reflected on their grade sheet. So we have been trying many things like this to ensure that some value comes up ultimately. So that at the end of 4 years, the student sits to write a resume or post something on LinkedIn about their profile. There is something to write what you did, content. So that's been our focus or journey. It's still work in progress. We are open to ideas to increase in this direction.
Got it. Got it. It's interesting to note, at Vishwakarma, to my surprise, right? So the way the program is structured is that, let's say basics of data science is an elective that you give to a student in the fourth semester, and then you set up a center of excellence. You give them a Python console, you give them an Informatica console, you give them all the fancy consoles that you work on in the center of excellence. They come and do your industry projects. When I say industry projects, there might be 100 things that you want to do, but you have a budget or a team only to do 20 things. The other 80 things you kind of give it as problem statements or use cases to the college, and the students work with an academic mentor to ensure that is done. And then there is an industry mentor who kind of oversees that. And by the end of third year, they've worked on 2 or 3 industry projects that is very specific to your company or your industry. And then the fourth year, they join you for a full year internship like a full-time employee. So they are at your office and all of that. And once the fourth year is done, they join you as a fresher with 2 years of experience, but at a fresher salary. So it's kind of a win-win-win kind of a situation where you are getting somebody who is experienced, so there is no stickiness problem, and then the college ensures that they are placed so that the future of the student is a little secured, and then the student is also ensured of a job, and that's something he likes and he has worked on it for the last 2 years. So there is no the concept like you say you end up in something and then you don't know whether you like it or not, and then you keep hopping and all of that. That also is kind of eliminated. So this is what they kind of do. And that's it. So probably you are telling he's giving them all the blocks to build their personal brand. So probably with whatever you guys said, they can. So they are the bricks. So building the brand would probably relate it to more you. So Matangi, in a like say in a curious question, right? So in a field that is like, I would say, oversaturated like data science right now. When I say oversaturated, not in terms of talent, in terms of influx of people, in terms of the noise in the industry. Everybody today wants to be a data scientist. Nobody even understands what is a data scientist. The parents don't know anything about data science. Data science gives good money, so you become a data scientist. This is the rational. So in a space like this where I would not say overcrowded talent is still a big issue, but the influx of people is huge, unskilled people is huge. How do you differentiate yourself, or in building your personal brand and say this is what I am known for?
So you're saying supply is very, very high and not the right kind of supply, which I would agree. The talent density is still short in the field, and I will tell you where the talent density, the pockets in which the talent density is of shortage. Certainly at leadership levels, there is a wanting of good talent out there. When I mean that, we want at leadership levels, we want people who know deep technical expertise, but also have the nuances of solving a practical problem, and the executive presence, and how do you communicate your vision, and how it should be vision led, etc. So there is a lack of talent density at the leadership level itself, and that kind of percolates through the system. So at mid management, there are talent density issues, and at freshers also there are talent density issues. Now coming to freshers, on where the talent density is, it's very similar to what I talked even about leadership, right? What is plethora available is a lot of articles, a lot of code bases out there that you can quickly pull in and then build your own things on top of it. There are a lot of videos, there are a lot of ways in which you can learn the sciences, learn the codes, right? And hence the gap starts showing up because there is no appreciation of the problem at all before somebody moves to a solution. So people get trained heavily on the solution space. You have no connection to what the problems are, right? So that's where the gaps, and rightfully so. There's only so much academia can do towards it in terms of making people appreciate the problems. Even if you get industry people to come and do regular lectures, this gap will be there, because appreciating and having an empathy, I want to use the word very deliberately, having an empathy to a business problem is very, very important. And that's a soft skill that would really differentiate a fresher from a person who kind of knows everything, to know how to solve a problem. Problem solving becomes a very, very important aspect, and that is not a very trainable thing, right? There has to be also something inherently in you to draw you towards that problem, one, and also the ability to solve the problem given all the knowledge that you have. So the knowledge, there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom, right? So this is knowledge. You have plenty of knowledge out there. You can query chat gpt and get a code. You can work with copilot, all of that is there. But how do you convert the knowledge to wisdom, and how do you start solving actual problems, is where the gap is, right? And now if you think about your question on how do you differentiate here, therein lies, how does someone seek opportunities to solve a real world problem, right? Which you talked about hackathons, and that's a great way to start it, because there somebody is presenting a real problem, then you are solving with that. There are industry conferences which students can attend, where people are talking about genuinely what those problems are, right? When they even if people are talking about core technologies, be it language models or anything, they do say the nuances of what kind of problems these are trying to solve, and that's another way to start understanding what problems are out there. I would say a student should spend 70 to 80% of your learning time in understanding what problems your area will help you solve. Then you figure out how to solve it, right? One of the this kind of many founders say this, right? For finding the problem is the biggest problem. Once you find the problem, then you can solve it. And it is the same thing while you are even coming to the industry. Figure out what are the problems these solutions are solving, right? If it is llms, or if it's your forecasting models, if it's your classic classifiers, if it is about building a dashboard, if it is about building a data engineering pipeline, the appreciation of what is it that you are solving, is very, very important. And once you figure that out, and that's a seeking process, right? That's not going to show up to you. It's not a Google search where you say, hey, what are the top 10 problems that LLMs are solving today, right? It is not that simple, because then you get very textbookish answers. But you seek the problem, you understand where the differences are, you understand when you build a solution, it may look like it's good, right? But when you actually build it for an enterprise at an enterprise scale, then you know the nuances of, okay, this area it is not working correctly. These are the nuances. If you don't solve those nuances, then entire solution becomes useless, right? Sometimes you require accuracies or relevance greater than 95%, right? Which means a 90% solution is not 90% better. 90% solution, if 95% is the benchmark, is useless, right? So we need to understand those nuances of where are the gaps, and then you start working towards the gaps. As you work towards the gaps, then you actually build projects which are out there, which have solved something very differently than what others have solved, because of which a lot of people, I started out by saying, for me learning is by doing, and for those people in my bracket of learning by doing and not by learning by research papers or blog articles, you will start appreciating the fundamentals even more better. You will, for example, you will understand what is a stochasticity in a stochastic gradient model. Why does your weights have to be incremental? How do you kind of adjust for leakage of variables, etc.? As you solve these big problems, then your fundamentals get also very, very stronger. So my first thing, and I'm saying this, spend bulk of your time seeking the problem. Once you get hold of the problem, spend the remaining of the time solving it. In this method, you will kind of have a portfolio of things that people are impressed with. These are things that will also help you self reflect on where you are, and also help you go deeper in the subject that you are doing. That would be my stance on it.
So, kind of, distilling what you've said, is that there is a noise of around a lot of skills and tools that people know, that is all cluttered over the resume and their, personal profiles. But rather, I would appreciate if somebody has solved a specific lending problem for a. So, talking about the problems in the industries and the business impact that they've created would probably differentiate their profiles much better in data science than telling that I know Power BI, Tableau, ClickView, or I know Python, I know this NLP, I know CV, I know all these different models within NLP and CV. That would not make much of a difference, but much rather, if somebody says I've solved this problem, it is, reverse engineering, and I understand that he must have used all these things. So
Correct.
that is a way you would probably look at a person differently in terms of the personal brand that they're
Correct.
building, right?
Correct.
So sure, Ashutosh wanted to, kind of come to you, right? So we're talking about different shades of these things. So in sales and marketing, there is always a lot of noise that sales and marketing professionals do. Okay. So in that sales and marketing noise that they do, how do they also ensure that their personal brand is also conveyed and propagated around the industry, so that one, when somebody is looking for certain solution, they know you are the best guy in that domain to reach out to, so you are driving inbound leads. Second, if somebody is looking to hire someone in that field, they know this guy has got the maximum following, so I hire him, he's going to walk in with 15 leads already when he's coming into my company. So that kind of positioning, how do you bring it in sales and marketing?
Yeah. So you see, first, obviously, it is not necessarily for any student or a professional or anybody. This is general rules of personal branding. It could be a movie star, it could be whoever else. Uh, we There is something called 7 A's that we refer to. Okay, the first A of your personal branding has to be the awareness itself. As in, you people won't come out hunting for you unless you yourself tell them what you are, and for that you need to have some kind of self awareness, self brand audit in a way, where you come out with that intense understanding of yourself, that these are my skills, this is what I do best, and this is what I can contribute in the society or to the company. So that's the first awareness or the audit of it. The other is your attributes in terms of what as an attribute is that you're communicating, right? So you could be, if you could be someone who understands technology, you could be someone who's communicating with a very clear lineage towards a particular policy decision, or it could be, I mean, look at vloggers. They have identified themselves as either, let's say, restaurant reviewer, or a trucker, or a movie review, or a car review guy, or whatever else. But they have found their niche. I mean, imagine someone who has been doing a car vlogging and suddenly talking of restaurants. That doesn't work. So you should know whom to go to. The third important A of it is the authenticity of it. How authentic are you? I mean, are you giving information which is, it's a fact checkable? These facts are easily checked. So people need to be very authentic. It is not important to be talking a lot or conveying, or what you call noise. I call it communication. Doing a lot of communication. It's not important. It's quality over quantitative sometimes. But what you communicate should be authentic. Okay. And second, also, it's who you are. I mean, who's talking, right? So authentic data scientists can talk of data science. But if I start talking of data science, I'm not so authentic. It is about what you have done to be able to be a master in that. Okay, so communicating your skills effectively to know that you are talking. I mean, I would much rather have a review of a restaurant from a restaurateur than from someone who's just a street walker and saying, okay, I need to know this. So you need to have those authenticity in terms of what you are going to talk about. Uh, I also talked about appearance earlier, which is another A of it, which is how you appear to the rest of the world. And that is exactly what you want them to know. Uh, I could I could be a, I can make my brand stand out by doing something very different. Now, if you are a movie star and you're a Ranveer Singh or someone, he will want to do very colorful and useless stuff all the time, which may sound like a stupid thing to you, but probably his audience are liking it. So you need to be very clear about who are you going after, which is what, coming back to your point of knowing your audience, which is next A. Audience, you need to know your audience so that you can communicate your message to that audience particularly. You have to fine tune your messaging for that particular audience. If I am a student who's wanting a job in a particular company which is in IT, or maybe it's a website, then I would need to know who are the people that I'm talking to, and accordingly I will orchestrate my message. And the last A is something that when we were at the institute we were never taught, which is active listening. uh, it is very critical for you to be actively involved and listen to what is being said about you or about your technology or the skills that you bring in. uh, Things just evolve all the time, things change, and unless you are there knowing the feedback, getting feedback very well, and making those changes yourself, it's not necessarily that you will always be on top of your game. I may add that there is another A which a lot of people miss out, and that is, apart from active listening, is also the adaptability of it. Okay, how do you adapt to what you are doing? I mentioned I have been in about 7 8 companies over the last 25 odd years, each with different culture, as I said. Unless you are adapting to that culture, you will find it very difficult. So you bring around your attributes, but you mix it with the culture of a company, and that becomes the personality that you are.
Got it, got it. So now, just as a follow-up question, right, Ashutosh, let's say for example somebody is selling data science, okay? So he wants to land a better job in data science, okay? Obviously putting open to work on LinkedIn is not the best strategy because people know you're desperate, okay? So let's say he's selling data science and he wants to be hired in the next data science company.
Hmm.
So how does he brand himself to get a better job next time, or to be visible in the eyes of the recruiter?
So I go back to my A's, 7 A's, right? First thing is, what is the matter inside you, the product? Okay, what is that you have done for you to believe that you are the data science guy? if you are giving enough content to someone to interview you to write, so I am assuming that if you are someone interested in data science, you would have done 5 things there. I mean, they may not be exclusively done by you. A lot of people may have done, but at least you have done them. So first thing is get your product ready, as in you should be able to communicate that these are my things, this is what I understand data science, this is how I'm going to value myself into your organization. So obviously you're positioning yourself in the minds as someone who understands data science. The next is about reaching out to the right guys. So if you're a data science guy, then you know who are the companies who will be hiring, who are the type of people. So you're not going out and spray and pray strategy doesn't work, that you just send your resume to everybody. It doesn't work that way. You are very clear the kind of companies you want to work for, or where you may have your skills used. So your target audience is clear, your strategy to communicate to them is clear, what you want to position yourself is also clear. It's all about packaging after that, which means here is a person who has delivered ABC project for XYZ uh, institute or for a company, and to prove that there is this certificate, there is this set of experiments that have been done. This is what recommendations on LinkedIn which are there. So social media tools, for example, are a great way. You said LinkedIn, you don't get job necessarily, but LinkedIn also offers you lots of ways to make sure that your profile is the voice of the media.
You get a lot of jobs on LinkedIn, but not by putting open to work, is what I'm.
No, no. So I agree with you. But sooner or later, someone will want to look at your LinkedIn profile. So your LinkedIn profile also needs to be complete in terms of if you are wanting to present yourself, there shouldn't be a uh, disorientation between what you are communicating and your LinkedIn profile. A LinkedIn profile which has right links, maybe some videos of what you have done. That's the big thing. Actually, I think sooner or later, world will start seeing video LinkedIn kind of profiles. They've already started, but I don't see the written CVs as something that will continue for most of the coming future. At least for the technology world, we see audio or video CVs now. We see video CVs because it gives me an option of understanding who the person is, what is his personality, what's his aura, what is it that he communicates, does he communicate well, uh, and then you can follow it up with a written CV and other things. But that first 2 minute, 4 minute attention grabbing CV, what you are, is what is important. So if you want to, and if you have some pocket money earned, make your 3 minute presentation or a CV and try to invest in LinkedIn, because LinkedIn will give you an option to make sure you reach the target audience, whether it is LinkedIn, whether it is a lot of these YouTube vlogs, whether it is your Facebook, or you can choose your medium depending on your target and industry. But you may want to invest in making sure that your profile is seen by the right few, by making sure that you are sponsoring it. Um, Twitter is a great example. You can create long tweets and put that links there and then viral that instead of viraling a small video. If you want to talk a lot, tweet will give you only that much, but then you need to have your right followers, etc. So there are many ways. Just because you are a fresher in the industry doesn't mean your avenues are limited. As long as you have the right content, it's what inside that matters. So if you have that content, otherwise you have to develop that content and then just find a right way to communicate to the right people. That's all it is into it.
Got it, got it. So, Praveen, now coming back to you, right? So, I asked him specific to data science sales. Now, coming to a data scientist angle, more of a fresher. Let's say he has worked for UB as an intern in the Center of Excellence, solved really good problems for UB, worked on real good financial models, identified risk, flagged risk, reduced, propensity of, the customer paying, failing to pay significantly and all of that. So now let's assume this is his profile. But then for some reason, Matangi decided not to hire him. Okay. Now, how does he position himself on LinkedIn, given that we're talking more in the professional space? How does he position himself on LinkedIn as a better brand to be recruited by, other fintech companies or, other financial analytics arms? How does he do it? How he comes to you for help?
See, first advice from me if someone came to me for help is probably the job profiles were not matching. Their requirements were different to what you were looking at. They probably have only a few skill sets that they were looking for, and you probably were not fitting into that. But that doesn't mean that you don't fit into the entire ecosystem's scheme of things. So, number one, focus on who you are. Again, coming back to what we spoke earlier. Okay, now, which are the four other companies that have the job that you want? If you're a entry level data scientist now, what are the jobs? Okay, from your experience, your 1 year experience being an intern, you have a fair understanding as to what kind of a job you want now. So where are these jobs available? Like Ashutosh said, they won't come to you. You also have to find out where they are. And do you have an understanding of their JDs first? Have you studied the JD enough for you to tell that compelling story so that he or she is sitting back and hearing you out in terms of your accomplishments in this 1 year of your internship? Because all said and done, if you're a you know engineering graduate from any premier B schools, okay, you are qualified. Your qualification, what you did, you've passed your 8 semesters there. Everyone has done that. That's the platform. That's a basic qualification. Everyone has achieved. Now, what is your differentiator in this case of the student that you spoke about who has done his 1 year internship at UB here is his 1 year story. So now the interviewer is trying to focus on asking the candidate as to what was his experience, where what is his story of his 1 year. So that's where he needs to now align his experience to the requirement of the recruiter. Else, there's a mismatch. I keep telling stuff that I did in this 1 year, but it has nothing to do with what they are looking for. There's a mismatch. Now you need to be smart enough to understand that company's requirements, the skill sets required there, the applications of what you learned in this internship versus that first 1 year job role there. So if you marry these two, that's when the recruiter is going to pay attention to your accomplishments and try to dig more into what have you done in that 1 year, rather than going across the entire ecosystem where the world is too big for you to answer those questions. But you need to focus on what have you learned and ensure that the recruiter is asking you more questions on based on what you have done rather than the open world. The open world is too much and you'll not be able to answer all the questions. The recruiter might have 10 years experience asking you all sort of questions, but you might not have an answer for all that. So better you convey your story in a way where the questions are built around your experience rather than leaving it loose. Then again you will not hit it, and then again you're not impressing the recruiter. So that's going to be my advice for this candidate.
So another quick follow up. Okay. So this is what you're telling me to, probably this is the marketing bit of it, which is, I know what I'm good at, I know what they want, and I structure the message and I ensure the message, you know, promulgates to them, right? So that is what is. I want the branding aspect of it. How do I build a profile such that if anybody is looking to hire a fresher or hire a young professional, I should be on their radar. I should be on the radar of 5 6 people, that at any given time there are people reaching out to me and be like, hey, that's the ideal state for any candidate, right? Like, I have people offering me jobs and I am deciding what I want to do.
So it's a very good question. See, today the world is all about keywords. Okay, now all kind of algorithms, whether it's a video profile of yours or a written CV of yours or a word of mouth, a referral, is going to only pick up your keywords. So now that's why I started my earlier. I was answering your earlier question. The whole journey starts 4 years ago when you started your engineering program in the first year. So have you found out what you wanted, and do you know who's your audience? Do you know what their requirements are? Some people go behind brands and they don't care about the job. They're looking at the brand because that appeals to them. Some people, see, ideally you should be looking at the job profile and then go searching which companies have this job profile, and then start working backwards in 4 years in advance. Number 1, to acquire those skill sets. Number 2, work on those projects. Number 3, speaking, going and meeting your TG, your seniors who are working in those companies, doing internships in those companies to understand the entire portfolio that first job, that dream job of yours is all about. And you need to do enough study around that and start working towards acquiring those skills. And all your experience that you gain should be in line with the future job that you have. That's when you create a niche. Otherwise, you are going to use the spray and pray method, where you're going to apply to everyone and then see a lot of failures in the initial stage. And it could be luck by chance, where you might hit some right chord, you might land up in your sixth or seventh job. But if you start with the aim of ensuring that my first application should be my last one, and that's when your preparation is going to be so much more solid. But you are not going to gain all this experience by your own thinking, but you need to spend a lot of time with your seniors who are working in those companies or in similar companies. You need to go and do internships there. You need to ask people who are working there and gain a lot of knowledge in terms of what could I expect, what will they expect out of me. And don't try to prepare that in the last 50 days. Spend your first 3 years if you're late by 1 year, but best is the first 4 years, because that's where the differentiator is going to come across.
Thanks for all these insights. I wanted to kind of understand, like we've talked about, how do you start branding, how do you build a brand, and what are the other aspects and nitty-gritties around building a personal brand, and how you should align with the organization that you want to go in and all of that. So I kind of understood all your perspectives in a very layman sense for the student who wants to know step 1, step 2, step 3, because we've talked all strategies but not tactical stuff. So I wanted to understand, how would he go about building a brand and go about it. And a student is a clean slate. How does he build a brand when there is very little things? I want you to kind of kickstart the conversation, and then we go about what are the steps that a student or young professional should take step by step to go there.
Yeah, I'll just start with what Ashutosh was saying. Among the 7 A's, one thing was authenticity. That means content has to be there, right? So for the brand. So because we start by and large with a clean slate, because primarily we're an undergraduate in college. So their branding, I believe, primarily comes when the person has identified his area of where he wishes to work, etc. Even students who are very clear about it tend to be flexible. I mean, and that's just 10% of the crowd. By and large, 90% are not even clear what they are interested in or where they want to work. They are just looking for opportunities. And honestly, to tell you, most students, they just look what CTC you're getting the company. So, and as a placement officer, the student groups always tell me, sir, you ensure that all the companies come in the descending order of CTC so that we can get the best one that we are eligible for. So that's the input that I get from them. So from where I understand that they are not even so much looking at what is the type of company. It may be banking, finance, it may be product company, it may be startup. No, they are not concerned about anything. Their primary concern is, at least for a large majority, is the CTC. I believe that the branding for them in terms of their area identification would start coming maybe 3-4 years after they graduate. After the 3-4 year work experience, now they may have a clarity. I believe they should have at least in 2 years or something, as to this is the area I wish to work and grow, etc. Okay, so that's why as a college we just focus on pushing in the content, so that the authenticity at least comes up. So they are good with programming skills or soft skills or whatever we are doing, they have come up in that. So that's the focus for colleges.
So, as in, adding to your point, right? Till my third year, almost third year ended, I never knew what I wanted to do. I just chose computer science engineering so that I don't have to write records, so that I can take a printout. That was as simple as what branch of engineering I wanted to choose. So that was a rational, entire rational. And then Mu Sigma came out, when I was in third year last semester, and then like business analyst. Oh, I don't have to do coding. Let me go there. done. I didn't know. But back then it was not called data scientist. I got placed. 1 year I was just chilling. So I didn't do anything. So and I go into music and like, no C, Java and all. Here we have Python or SAS, SQL. I'm like, where did I end up? So the next 3 months was very grueling for me. I did well, but I was not enjoying it. And then I'm like, okay, I'll move to sales. So that is the whole thing.
Yeah.
So the 3-4 year leeway that you're telling after graduation, right? By 3-4 years, somebody's career is already very well established. Contrasting to that, Praveen, you are like first year only you decide which company you want to go to.
Correct.
What if that company gets sold out or shut down before he completes 4th year? So my question is, answer for that, because when you're like super micro focusing on that level, right? So you generally tend to exclude the rest of it.
No, just
I have an example I will tell you later, but then I want you to go ahead.
No, just a small correction. It's not one company. So you are good at something. So that skill set of yours is applicable in many companies. Okay. So while yes, this is my dream job, priority to, like people say, C2C highest one. Okay, you have a brand image in your mind. If you work there, you feel that company gives you a better work life. That company gives you better recognition, etc. There are, apart from money, there are many things. So it's not like that. Oh, there's only one company that looks at this kind of skills. There are 10. There could be 10 others. So what I was trying to say is, because if you have to build your personal brand, okay, you can do spray and pray and find out a job, you will figure out, because there's enough talent, there's enough requirement in the market. It's not like you just because you are in engineering, we can't consider them that they are not good at it. They have gone through grueling entrance exams. They are at a certain IQ, and there's a market for that. But you also have a choice. You will also enjoy if you go and pursue something that you wanted to. So you should be aware of everything that you want to do in advance. Don't go blindfolded and get into trouble. So number one, do not go blindfolded and figure out something later, because it is your time. That first year's experience is going to be your foundation for the next few years. What you did in your first year, the skill set that you acquired in that company is a stepping stone towards your larger dream. Okay, there are 80% of the people are clueless about what they want, but I'm talking about the 20% who are worried about the personal brand right at an early age. The 80% is still going to follow the herd mentality and go behind few things which the herd wants. But if we are speaking to the 20% of people who are serious about it, we need to give some guidance. As professionals in the ecosystem, we have a responsibility to guide these students so that they pursue their professional in a very meaningful, purposeful way, and they enjoy their life and they stick on to it, and they contribute to the organization. The organization grows, flourishes, and hence the overall economy and the country. So there is a larger purpose all of us also have, in terms of guiding and contributing back to the ecosystem from which we came. We all can keep cursing the education system that we came from, and we being clueless, we being not guided. Today, thanks to all these avenues and tools, today's students have more exposure, more guidance, so they can utilize it better. So that's primarily the point one. And if you look at it, there are a lot of tools available in the market where you can assess yourself in advance. So we work with India's largest assessment company called Meritrack. They have a tool for the engineering student or the law student or the commerce student. From first year, there is an assessment done, and you are given like a blood report. You're given a report as to who you are today. So now you choose what you want to. You go and build your skills based on what is your future requirement in the market, with the service provider, with the trainer you want. And then second year, again an assessment is done on you to show you who you are today. And eventually all this data that comes, which is psychology led, which is assessing your personality and giving you a real-time picture of who you are and where you have traversed from point A to point B. In 4 years, you've got 4 reports, and use that content to write your profile. Now your profile is very comprehensive, very so comprehensive that it attracts the recruiter. So now you worked on yourself very meticulously. Forget about the first 4 years. The next 4 years in your job also you will have enough clarity where I want to go, because that's one of the questions that is asked in your interview, saying what are your plans in the next few years. If the candidate who is very clear and it aligns with the organization's vision, the recruiter has wants to hire that person at a higher cost and giving all the flexibility and preference to that candidate over the rest 20 who they are recruiting.
See, I just want to add the fact that you said start early, but obviously when we were obvious students, we didn't have a clarity of where it was just about getting a job that was important. And I don't think much has changed. People still want a job and a brand or a company that they go first, and then about the skills, etc. If they had such wisdom, then they would not be necessarily where they are. They would have done much better. But then the point is, it's not important to know where you want to go. It's important, or what you are. It's not important. What is more important is what you are not. You should know what you don't want to be. That is enough. At least you will narrow it down to things that you can do.
Yeah.
So personally speaking, I am an instrumentation engineer. But by the fourth year, I was very clear I don't want to be in process control or factory or shop floor, things like that. So you're finally an engineering company or an engineering degree only grooms you up into an analysis. Then your mind is trained to think like that, etc. Uh, but it's not necessary. If you go today in IIM or anywhere else, 50% students who come from engineering background have very different engineering, metallurgical engineering, etc. So as long as you're clear about where your skills lie and where your heart is, that should be important. So you rule out things that you don't want to be.
Correct.
And in my case, I was fairly clear that I'm a people's person. I want to be talking to people, not stuck in a shop floor. So sales was one obvious choice. But and I'm talking of era when Wipro was the only computer company, HCL and Wipro. There was no Microsoft. Windows was still to be launched, 1991. So network was the typewriter. Selling typewriters that time was a big thing. You are like a classy IT guy when you're selling a typewriter. So don't laugh, man. That's my past.
Okay. I'm
So
not laughing at your past. I'm just laughing
no,
at how
but
soon
93
things.
when Microsoft announced Windows and that DOS thing went out. I mean, forget about what you learn or what was there. We were taught Fortran, Pascal, etc. in engineering. Okay, even in instrumentation, you have to cover these computer languages. Even that time, there was no scope for a Fortran or Pascal. When you come out of the institute, you realize the real world needs a lot more different, which is why this new curriculums, etc., have come up. But if you, the good ones will find what they're good at. What's your skill? If you can find that, great. If you can't, at least find what you're not good at. That's also important, and therefore you will narrow it down to which companies, what kind, what you want to do in life. So I was embarrassingly lucky. Embarrassing because I did engineering. I come from a family where parents were both PhD guides, and suddenly they think that I paid for all this engineering and you want to go and sell some typewriters, man. What the hell? So it was a look down for them. But I knew what I'm doing. It was easy. And then I knew that the next step would be about understanding what management and marketing is. So I went and took a competitive exam, got through an MBA, and that's how I figured out what I need to do. And I guess most people do that today also. So my advice is simple: just make sure that you are aware of what you want to do. If you can't figure that out, just be sure where you are most uncomfortable in.
So, as in Mathingi just leading that way, right? In STEM, women are still very less.
In
In STEM, in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, women are still very less, right? So, because of this, for a woman, it is a little more challenging because, it's perceived that men are numbers guys and women are people person and all of that. That, notion is kind of fading away. But that said, for women who want to be in tech, what are the ways in which they should put themselves out so that they are identified, handpicked, or what are the active things doing?
Yeah, so I think you're right on the perception, right? That is the common perception that is there. And you see, certain times it's conscious bias and certain times it's unconscious bias. Though we can do a lot about conscious bias, unconscious bias takes a lot of time to overcome, and that plays a significant role in career growth. Having said that, uh, girls need to be encouraged into STEM, and that starts from the schools, that starts from family, that starts from the girl's mother, who has to constantly tell her that she needs to be independent, she needs to be ambitious. There are not any things that she cannot do. And that's very important. And the other tipping point, just based on my experience that I've seen, is around the ninth, 10th grade, is when suddenly girls get started getting boxed into non-STEM fields, and uh, suddenly there is a gravitation towards it. I think parents who think and see a potential in their children, who have an affinity towards technology and mathematics, should start nudging them towards it. It does start from school. It does start from home, and how does the child view people around her. Now, having said that, there are various forms. Girls Who Code is a forum, and then there are a lot of forms that is out there, and it is a constant nudge that she sees in her environment to, to start taking to the field. It is a tough field. There is no question about it. It is tough for men and women because it's a field where you have to constantly be updated, constantly learn, constantly on the go. However, it is not a field which doesn't require people. So women make a huge difference in leadership, in STEM, because they bring in an atmosphere that otherwise have not been seen there. Right? So women can be more empathetic. I'm not saying men are not, but I'm just saying as a characteristic trait, women can be more empathetic, and at leadership levels, at technology fields, people is a very important factor. You're either having large teams, or you're working with customers, or you're working with peers around you. The empathy to a problem is as well as people is will make a difference, and that kind of gets encouraged more and more by companies also, I'm saying, where they should start adopting different styles of working and different styles of leadership, right? If you're going to look out in a woman what her male counterparts would have otherwise done, and then say that's the baseline and that's how you should operate, now that is going to set them for failure. So you may have as many diversity rules as possible and diversity quota and everything as possible, but if you are not as an organization embracing enough for different styles of working and engagement, then you're going to shut that down completely, right? So it's not just about hard metrics like diversity or flexibility. It is also a soft metric of how do you embrace different kind of different kind of ways in which people deal with the problem. Very a stereotypical example I'm saying, and like, of course there are exceptions on both sides. um, and having spoken to many women with me, general feedback a woman gets is, hey, you're reacting emotional to a problem, or you are kind of taking this too personally, and you need to be very logical about this problem, etc. Why do, meaning those need not even come in as a feedback, for example, those are personality traits. As much as on the same side, if there's a guy who is very bullish about something, he wants to make it big, that's considered huge, that's considered something to go after. Whereas a woman who's very bullish about certain things, it's considered in a very different light, right? The embracing of how do you deal with situations and how different people deal with situation, you should let them be, and that's how you build diversity. That's how you build and draw more people into it, and that will set examples for many young girls who are going to come into this field, into it. And this is a very common thing, maybe very surprising or not seen across, but a lot of people have shared this. I've personally gone through this, where when how you react to it becomes gets clubbed into your personality trait rather than a very factual feedback, right? And certainly impacts through technology can benefit a lot different from a different style of leadership. And because it's not tested, because people have not seen it in large scale, that's the whole point of diversity, right? That's why we need people to come into STEM more. The other point I want to say is, especially girls getting into STEM, is they should also become a little stronger. Where even now in this world that we are living in, there is a lot of headwind for women to have a long career, right? Even, and you see that you take any statistics, it is out there. It's a like many let's say some out of college join workforce, and out of that some drop into mid management, and then very few make it to the top, right? And this is proven multiple times. And the point in life stage where they drop out also during marriage, do post a childbirth, and during different when aging parents, all of that come in the way. And women are looked at the first point to kind of make that trade off and make that switch. So what is very important for women and girls to kind of stay and make a career, is that they got to be damn serious about it. They got to be extremely ambitious about it. But more than all of this, the will to succeed against all odds, that is going to be very important. So one of the things people say it, if you made it to the top as a woman, then you generally could stand out in your perseverance as compared to your male counterparts, because only thing that you see through the entire career is a negativity, is a no. It is a lot of headwind, right? For men it's a tailwind to propel to the career. For women it is the headwind
I sorry to
against the career. I'll complete it. Of course, again, like I said, there are exceptions on either side. I'll just leave this with an anecdote. So if you see a guy sitting at home and taking care of home and taking care of kids, the first thing you ask is why. And if you see a woman who is kind of traveling, doing all of these things, growing up in the career, is how much more time are you going to do this, right? So this is a fact. The thing I want to definitely tell the girls who are watching this show, is that be ambitious. You have a right to what you want to be, and nobody can stop you at that, provided you have the will and the perseverance to take it forward.
see. My take is absolutely opposite of that. I think we are past that age, at least in the IT, data science, STEM kind of technology, where gender plays the most important part. I mean, the workplace is a lot more safer. The prevention of sexual harassment, posh laws are there. There is, unless you are in a call center kind of a setup where late nights, etc. work, but there is really no job where I find, and I travel to many companies, I don't see. Yeah, I mean, in the olden days it used to be 1:10. Today is probably 6:4, right? 6 boys and 4 girls, right? And if you are in a marketing setup, you will find the reverse. I have been leading a team of marketing people where I was the diversity. Yeah, so it works that way. So I have not come across gender based, and most of these multinationals that I've worked for, actually their policies have tailwind supporting the woman, diversity higher. And you cut across segments today. You have a TAFE led by a lady, you have a Thermax led by a lady, manufacturing companies, you have of course ICICIs and net bankings. The I don't see where Salesforce is led by Anand Bhattacharya. So there is Arundhati Bhattacharya as a banker went into this. So I don't see anymore. Yes, you're right. It used to be about 15, 20 years back. Uh, it used to be something, and maybe even today in non-STEM fields, it may be metallurgy, civil. If you go to there, maybe there is. But two things that have changed this. One, the conscious work by the companies to make sure the environment is a safe place, and they get more and more of diversity. Even LinkedIn says he, him, and a third diversity also they give nowadays, right? So you have all options available. Besides that, the second thing that has changed is the outlook of our parents. Parents have not restricted them, saying that this is what you should do, or these are very early in life they are clear that they will be professional working girls. It's not that they will be in house. So when you're brought up, you're studying to be someone in life. I think, and the second crop is already on. People in my time who their mothers already, they make sure that their children grow up. Daughters become the same way, brought up technically, professionally. So I somehow don't agree that, and there need not be very different attributes for a woman, right? Except for few jobs, but most of the time, the will to look up or dream big or wanting to be have that excessive succeed desire to succeed, etc., is as relevant for a male as much as for female. There is no difference at all there. Um, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. From campus perspective, I would like to say something. In the last few years, the trend has been increasingly by all kinds of companies for diversity hiring.
Correct.
I mean, I get so actually, when I started my role about 8 years ago, this was just not there so much. But now every company is asking for it, and previously it was only the IT companies asking. Nowadays, it's in fact the manufacturing which is asking more. Because what has happened is they have a global target of 50-50, which they are just unable to meet at senior levels. So they want to ensure that at campus they hire more girl candidates. So they just so this is a trend. So even just recently, I mean, since you're instrumentation implementation, we have about 120 instrumentation graduates this year, 40 are girls. There is such a demand for those 40. The same set of half a dozen companies we have for the instrumentation core roles, and they all want those 40 girls only.
Correct. And those 40 girls only will end up doing instrumentation. The boys will end up doing MBA and salesmen.
Yeah, perhaps if they. So in fact, some boys come and tell me also. So even I mean, I'm just going a bit ahead and saying that even when companies shortlist. So typically, what happens when companies come to campuses? We send them a list of profiles. So they shortlist because suppose there are 200 students, they may want to put only 100 on the test, right? So they have different criteria for the boys and the girls. So very often it happens that a boy who is like 8.5 CGPA is not shortlisted, but a girl at 8.2 is, because they want to, out of the 100 candidates they want to take ahead, they want 70 girls and 30 boys. So the shortlisting cutoff is much lesser. So all the winds, head, tail, everything.
I want to really come on this one.
Is all this. So that's what
I
I'm
have a
saying.
point to
these days.
make.
No, so I just want to come on two things, right? Just by looking at diversity quota, I can show you the numbers. I can tell you my team, which I'm very specific about the women in data. It's 20%. It's one of the highest benchmarks out there. You can check it out. Especially data science, I can certainly talk about data science and product engineering. There is, you just go up the ladder, it keeps dropping.
Yeah, that is correct.
And it is. That's one point. Second point, yeah, I told you about when I began this, I said there are two biases, conscious and unconscious bias. What are and of course, companies can only do so much about conscious biases. So that is being eliminated, which is the diversity coming in, which is a very good thing to happen.
Yes.
Which is flexibility coming in. Maternity is now 6 months. When I had my daughter, it was 3 months. So those are things that are certainly coming out. But the unconscious bias, which is a very, very important driver as you move up the career, is there. And if we don't talk about it, if we say everything is nice, right, everything is healthy, pink and healthy, it's not going to be the right picture, right? I was of the belief for a long time, no, the decisions or my growth is not impacted by biases, etc. Till I was seeing hard facts, and then I had to correlate and say, okay, this is what was happening. It's unfortunate. It's because we are a product of the societies, right? And till had these discussions with women where certain attributes were more associated with women, and certain attributes were not. I wasn't sure myself, and the problem is this, right? And the problem is when you voice out as a woman and say that, hey, there seems to be a bias going on, or this person had a bias, and or this person refused to report to me because I was a woman. I have these cases. In those cases, right, you saying that statement doesn't seem to be right. You saying that statement is you are trying to make yourself as a victim, right? You're playing a victim card. Trust me, there have been feedback like that, right? So I'm just talking about the unconscious bias, and those who are even saying that may not even know what they are saying, may not even know that, okay, you are kind of saying something which is showing a bias, right? You wouldn't know that, but it does happen. Many people don't talk about it because they are afraid of being judged as kind of taking a woman card here or anything like that. Certainly better than last 15 years, how things have shaped up. But till the unconscious bias goes, this is going to continue. And women have to do that, right? All I'm saying is, I want to just, many forums I go and I do say that I'm just sensitizing it. These biases going to be there. There are people that your own family, people whom you value their opinion and your success more, they may say, hey, you should have looked at your child first before taking this. These happen, and let it happen is what I'm saying, right? Let it. You can take all the VP and above women in in all the companies. Ask them how many of them are guilty of not cooking before coming to work. You will see a bunch of hands go up, right? So I'm trying to sensitize that these biases are there. The society is still judging you based on some parlance that somebody wrote some many centuries back. You need to shatter that. You don't need to bother about it. The more you come in, the more these biases will go away. That's the sensitivity I wanted to bring.
So I want to ask you a question. I'm going to put you here on a spot. You're a data person, okay? My question is, should a person be given an opportunity purely because of the competence that the person has, or should a person be given a reservation or a quota just because they are born something or they are identified as something? Because I believe it's a competence. If whoever it is does a better job, should get it, is what I
Absolutely. I
believe.
don't I don't think that.
So do you think, what is your you know your opinion on this gender diversity hiring and bringing in hard quotas wherein you eliminate people who are more competent than that person just because of the gender? What is
Yeah,
your
so
opinion on that?
competence definitely takes precedence, but having awareness about, let's give equal opportunity. It's about equal opportunity I'm talking about. That is important. That's what diversity quotas given. But some places where they make diversity the do and end of all, people get referred as, hey, you are a diversity head. There are people who have told me, hey, you are a diversity head. Come on.
Yeah.
That's an insult to me. Right? I cleared a proper interview. Who did this? Negotiated my salary and come here. Why you call, that's what I'm calling as unconscious bias. The person who called me as a diversity hire did not even realize he should not have called me like that. Right? He thought it's fine. It's not fine. Right? It's not fine to call a diversity hire, which is exactly the point I'm saying. Diversity quota should get awareness, right? It is not, hey, I filled my X percentage of people and I am good. That's not how you are good. That doesn't mean you are good. You need to get the right person in the right place. Absolutely. Business is important and that takes precedence over everything. It is little bit be aware, to try and get women. Maybe you can go to places, if it's college hiring, you go to certain colleges more than that. That's it, right? The the criteria to evaluate should not change. It's an injustice to the person who's coming in. And definitely don't call anyone diversity hire.
So now my question is, what would you? Okay, so I understand this. This diversity is a new form of reservation that drove Indians out of India, is the reason why bulk of the brain drain happened. And now this diversity hiring, I see it as a new form of reservation. And then what you're going to do is you're going to end up driving all the men out
Correct.
of this. So like the example he said, somebody at 8.5 and versus somebody at 8.2, if CGPA is the only criteria that they're looking at, obviously 8.5 is superior than 8.2. 8.2 is getting an opportunity just because 8.5 is a man. So would you do that,
I
and do
wouldn't
you
do
like
that
it?
because that's what I'm saying, right? See, you can 8.2 to 0.2 to 0.5. Is this a statistical difference? I don't know the answer to it in the number
Okay,
one, right?
statistically significant, I
I
don't know.
don't know the answer to
Okay.
it. So then you keep a cutoff as low as 8.2 and give everyone in. That is how I would deal with that problem. I don't want to do injustice to anyone by bringing them in because they are of a certain gender. But that's the point I'm saying. I'm exactly saying the same point. I'm saying that it can build awareness, but beyond that, it merit should speak, and that is extremely important to make someone realize. Everybody should want to be occupying that position based on merit, not because they fall in the gender or anything like that, right? But however, the reason organizations have done it, there is a reason for it, right? It will at least throw away some of the biases out. It will get in a different type of thinking into it. So that organization, that's, see, among the levers that they have, they can't go and change the society, they can't go and make the family better, right? Those are things that they cannot do. So they can open the funnel better. I think from that perspective, it's a welcome thing. The gate has to be a gate. The interview panel, how there are blind interviews also, blind resume selections also, that happens, right, where they mask the person name and see whether they are coming in. Those are there today. Awareness is fine, having a guideline on a diversity is fine, but using that to say A over B, no, that is something I wouldn't recommend.
I have a point to make here. One, referring to your question that you spoke about, the females being less in STEM versus this one. Still, I don't know why there is a need to push people. They should choose it by themselves with some guidance, etc. And hence, it's a choice they should make, because it's a lifelong choice. You will either enjoy your life or you will repent for doing certain things. Point one. Point two, when it comes to diversity, yes, I agree with everyone that it should be fair. Where 8.2 male, 8.2 female, choose between the two, it should be 8.2 female, because there's no competency difference here. Okay, that the biggest problem to all this, why women do not break the glass ceiling and make it to the top, is a societal problem where there is no good support system. We are having a nuclear family where there's no one to support. The boys or the father's family is not supporting adequately. For the mother to go and work for 9 hours outside, it's not going to be so easy for the family until the parents support. There is a need for parents of a certain age to support the younger parents today. Only then the daughter or the wife is going to excel in her career, is going to fulfill her dreams. Otherwise, like she said, there's a lot of guilt saying, I'm not able to take care of my kids, I'm not able to cook, etc. The male has to be equally groomed while he is growing to ensure that he is getting married to in the future to a person who's going to be working. Is a male being taught to cook? No. Is a female being taught to she's being taught to go and work like a man, etc. But okay, is she also equally equipped? So there's a societal problem, there's a support system needed, there's a big startup opportunity for people to create this support system, and hence you will see highly qualified, very competent females going to the top and ensuring that there's diversity on both sides.
The unconscious bias that she was talking about is like, is a woman being taught to work like a man? Is something that you say a man is not. You
Yes.
should not say as a man being taught to cook like a woman. Is
He should
something
contribute.
as
Otherwise,
as
in a nuclear family,
What
I
I was
do more
trying to
cooking than my wife in my house, man.
Your wife is lucky. That's all. I don't want to say anything.
She has a good taste.
So, hey,
that's
My taste is also good. by the way.
no. So there is a saying: you'd never be too proud of your choices because your wife is one.
One
You'll
of
never mock your wife's choices too much because you're one of that. So
Yeah, but I live in a household which is more
female.
all female. I'm except
He's
my
a
dog.
diversity at home.
The only dog is the male there. My two daughters, my mother, my wife, and I'm the one who cooks. So, but that's because of choice. I used to own some restaurants earlier, so that's by choice. But I still don't know. Maybe I'm lucky that I have always worked in cultures or organizations where this has evolved already. Or things have changed, but I don't see it as bad as probably in a government office or somewhere. Even there in IAS, etc., I see a lot of women now, police, everywhere. So things have changed, but it is as bad or good as it is rest of the world. So earlier, probably if you go to places like North India, some parts of North India where there is a gender ratio bias, etc., the culture issues, so those are not something these companies can help. It's a societal
That's
issue.
a government's responsibility.
That is why Beti Bachao, Beti
Society's
Padhao.
responsibility, right? It's family and society.
But things have evolved. It's just that the support system is not easy. You think you can hire a maid, it's not easy. You think they'll come and take care, no. So
I have reported to female managers at least 3 out of in last 5 jobs, 3 were my female managers.
You've been doing it your entire married life.
Absolutely.
So
His master's voice. I am like that. What to do? But probably that's the reason why I don't see that bias coming in.
So you see it more as a natural thing than something that is forced.
And it must be a.
No, things
I
are
don't know.
far.
It must will be a terrible world to live in a conference room where there are 8 men talking about great things and boy talk. That I can do it in the pub. I don't need it to be in a corporate boardroom. No, you need to have the variety. In fact, a lot of companies today, or at least in my teams that I have seen, you forget the fact that there is a
Yeah.
female.
We
True.
Right?
don't
You
look
talk
at it
as
that way.
casually and generally as you talk with any other way. You
When
don't have to be
when we
conscious that there is a gender diversity there. You
when we
just
recruit, we
react.
don't even care whether it's a boy or a girl or
Correct.
a male or a
And
female.
your industry,
It's
marketing, etc.,
yeah.
anyway was flourished with it. So it is about tech STEM, where it was a problem. Even
No,
there, it is much better
it's
now.
did all the girls in the engineering college think those roles were very fancy? Did they make a conscious choice? Did they go and apply for civil? No. If you see the number of people in civil versus mechanical versus
Yeah, yeah.
ENC, there's a difference because the glamour attached to it. Parents and everyone knows it's a AC air conditioned environment where my daughter is working versus going on the street managing projects, etc. There's a
Yeah.
conscious choice made at the college level itself.
That is agreed.
That's why I'm saying IT industry
At,
per se is a lot more evolved
yeah,
than
in
Martin,
manufacturing,
yes.
the number
No.
of, in mechanical engineering, the number of girl students come is always less.
less. Yeah.
It has
Number of
always
people who get into engineering is where you make the cut, not after
That
engineering.
that is also correct. That is also correct.
You make a cut on. See, it's a bias after that. You're saying the whole core is: do you go engineering or do you go arts
Yes.
or do you go liberal? Like that is where it is coming. Now again, of course, each field is valuable and each field is good. Is the choice made because you are of a certain gender and you got certain exposure and somebody said, go slow in your life? Meaning, I know all of you are talking and I know how organizations are and everything. Just look around your society, your gated community and things like that. Just look at the women who are qualified, who have worked in certain places and dropped out, right?
Yeah.
There are enough there, right? And there was a choice made because of societal norms, right? I'm between the society, family, and organization. The unconscious bias is there in the first two more than the last one, but there is enough in the last one as well.
No, but
Yeah, but it is
okay.
more in society and family.
Yes.
Organization, it is much
and it
less.
impacts
Yes,
you more,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
So,
The
your
impact is more
Had
at
the
family and
mother-in-law or
society.
the mother ensured that I will take care of the children, daughter-in-law, please go, or the daughter, please go pursue your career, this problem would not have been so much.
That's a pattern. I was seeing her loading the cannonball when you were making that comment. So I was like, okay, she's gonna come. So the thing is that nowadays you see that, right? Actually, it's not the sons, the guy's parents living with the
It's
the couple.
daughter's
It's the
parents.
Yeah.
daughter's parents living with the couple, and they double up as babysitters. But it's a support system that is needed.
That is needed.
I don't know why male parents tend to shy away from that
Yeah,
responsibility.
but even that is not important.
It's a
In US,
compatibility
etc., they
issue.
don't live together, right? The parents don't live, but
There
still
there is
women work.
but the
There
support
is a
ecosystem of creche
creches
Yes.
and all that is there. Yeah.
That's the
that's
requirement in the market today.
so-
If that support system is there, then it will be a better system.
Except for fields like
Yes,
mechanical,
sir.
civil,
okay.
etc. Unless the girl wants to be civil and therefore get civil.
So okay, so wanted to come back to the the last part of the discussion, which is called the decision dilemmas, which is like two equally good options. Okay, you can choose one. You don't have to explain why you choose one, or you don't have to justify why you do not choose the other one. You can just choose one. It's your prerogative. Because usually what happens is when I ask this question, they tend, I would do a bit of this and a bit of
Correct.
that. So that is not the thing. So you choose one. Okay, I'll start with you, Martin. So industry focused branding or cross industry appeal for graduates in that context.
industry focused branding.
Share personal challenges or maintain a strictly professional image.
Share personal challenges.
Prioritize LinkedIn or explore emerging platforms.
For me, LinkedIn.
Highlight data expertise or leadership skills for women.
If you're in leadership, highlight leadership.
Invest in personal branding early or develop it alongside your career growth.
Develop it alongside your career growth.
Okay, Praveen, content creation or public speaking?
Public speaking.
Personal branding or career growth for business development?
Career growth for business development.
Consistent branding or tailored branding for each platform?
Consistent branding.
Brand authenticity or aesthetics?
Brand authenticity.
You brand yourself as a thought leader or as a successful executive?
Successful executive.
Okay. Ashutosh, niche market branding or broad appeal?
Niche market,
Personal website or social media presence?
social media,
Frequent audience engagement or selective impactful communication?
frequent audience,
Branding focused on current role or future aspiration?
future aspirations,
Highlight achievements or potential?
highlight achievements,
Okay. Karthik, I'll come to you. Industry partnerships or academic excellence?
Industry partnerships.
Personal branding during studies or after entering the workforce?
After entering workforce.
Encourage personal branding in curricula or outside extracurricular?
Extracurricular.
Broad based education or specialized training?
Broad-based education. Undergraduate.
Okay. Personal branding or traditional career readiness?
Traditional career readiness.
Okay, got it. Cool. Thanks. So this is done. So getting to the contributions part. So the idea is that the initiative is to ensure that there is a good connect between academia and industry, and the gap is bridged better.
Sure.
So as a part of that initiative, what we do is we have industry leaders uh, give a lot of contributions that will help further this initiative. So what they do is they do as little as say mentoring a few students to make good career choices early on in their career, or giving some industry projects, or setting up a center of excellence, or giving them internships, or giving them job offers. So each one of them in their own capacity do a lot of things. So I wanted to understand what all can we all contribute towards this to make this initiative a much bigger success.
Sure.
So
So, see, starting with instead of internships, starting with it could be engagement of maybe lecture series or something like that that we could come and contribute. That is where I want to start it with.
got it. So from there you want to
Yeah,
see how
see
we would.
how it is and
So in my case, I'm already involved in MBA students teaching. I teach a course in SP Jain and about another institute in Mumbai. So teaching is one way. Mentoring is another way. Where if you are able to, if I can take under the wings a few people who want to learn something through their projects or something else, it could be paying, it could not need not be paying, but there will always be mentoring opportunities. One can help them in projects, one can help them in making sure the communication soft skills are well groomed up. Okay, so those are basic things. And then one important thing that you can do is socialize them amongst a peer group. So we have lots of those WhatsApp groups or LinkedIn forums. If you really find a person, someone has a particular skill, and you know that this kind of company is looking for those kind of people, connecting them and introducing even people who you don't know well could be just a start. So I know of a group of people who run a jobs jobs info portal. It is not about jobs giving. So bunch of the, it says Strategic Alliance. We are part of Strategic Alliance portal, where there is a WhatsApp group of everyone. I come to know of a job, I just post it there, not for any particular purpose, but someone else may need it. You may have missed it out. So there are many ways. Assisting them in mentoring is one important one, which will go a long way, because what differentiates a newcomer to the industry versus experience is the experience itself. So as long as you can share what you have learned and make their life simpler, whether through teaching, whether through your articles, through blogs, or through podcasts like these, or through actual mentoring, anything can be possible.
Praveen?
Yeah, there are three stages where the industry can contribute for reducing the academia gap. And this is examples. These are examples that are working very well with some of our clients. To start with, I was part of this panel, and then there was series of these things that happened with Symbiosis in their induction program itself. They brought in a series of industry leaders to talk about what's happening in their industry, so that there is exposure at a very early stage to these students. That gave enough clarity for them to choose what they wanted in their career. So there's another B school with whom we work called Jacksom. They have a mentorship program where there's a total immersion that happens, and you are connected with one of the industry leaders, or 2 3 students are getting mentored by these industry leaders for a period of 2 years, right from the first semester itself. So they have clarity of what they wanted, they have clarity of what the industry leaders are currently doing, and then they start following that. The last part is extensive internships. Like he was talking about 1 year internships, 6 months internships, compared to the 1 month, 2 months. Now it's all about 6 months and a year, which is very good for the student to decide while he's studying itself as to what he wants to do in his future. These are areas where the industry can help the academia and in turn the students.
Intern, what is that you can personally contribute towards this initiative?
See, personally, what I've done in my organization is we've chalked out a curriculum for people who come and do internships with us, whether it's offline, online, or hybrid, where there's enough clarity for them. They get exposed to everything that happens in our world for them to decide whether this is what they want to do or they want to look at something else. And we encourage people to go and do multiple internships for them to choose. When they are a student itself, they choose what they want to do, and then they're very firm when they go for the first interview. We ask these students to present it to the entire office as to what they learned in this 1 month or 2 month internship which they do with us. There's enough clarity because this is a story they're going to tell in their interview. What did you learn in your internship? They have done that as one part in our organization. Probably they've gone back to their university and presented the same thing again. They have enough clarity as to what they learned, what is the requirement, and we teach them what the market wants from them tomorrow. So that's our contribution to this fraternity.
See, there is the concept of uh, read and learn, watch and learn, and do and learn, right? So the first is what academics takes care of, which is read and learn, study and learn, whatever that is. The other is watch and learn, is the two, mentoring or shadowing. We also call it shadowing, wherein you can assign, companies assign a student or a group of students for a 1 week kind of shadowing. You just observe a day in the life of an executive of data science, or day in the life of a salesperson. You go on calls with them. So that's the shadowing part. And then do it as a message, which means someone else is doing watching you while you do it, so that you can be mentored correctly and told what is right and wrong. So all of these are being done at various levels in most companies, whether it's Microsoft, Salesforce. All of them have some shadowing, and for students to come in and be oriented. The orientation program allows this to do. So it is not at that massive scale that it should be, but it is there. But that is what is important. The gap is quite stark when it comes to what a student comes from thinking that he has learned versus what the industry actually wants. That gap is quite stark even today. So someone giving them a feel of what it is like to be, rather than the idealist world that they have studied in the books. That gap filling is what mentoring is about, and I think that is important.
I'll add one more bit. Thankfully, the government also said you can hire lateral entrants into academia today. That was a missing piece. So that today, if the universities are going to hire more people from the market,
Industry.
they will
25
they will
years is
reduce the
equal to a
gap at the
PhD.
campus itself, instead of waiting only
Professor
for
of practice is what you're
professor
talking
of practices. That is going to change this whole problem to a large extent.
Got it. Got it. Cool. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for
Thanks.
joining it and making it a very memorable session.